We're going to continue our Zera Shimshon class tonight, B'ezrat Hashem. Happy Chanukah to all those. Chanukah Sameach. And as we know, every Chanukah is the same parasha. Parashat Miketz. The Zera Shimshon I picked today has a lot of gematriot in there, a lot of Kabbalah for those who like it. That's why I have the board here, because I have to write down. I want to visualize what we're going to talk about. There's a lot of numbers to keep track of, a lot of words. So, B'ezrat Hashem, this should help. Says the Zera Shimshon, the following. Pasuk. The Pasuk says at the end of last week's Parashat Vayeshev, Yosef Zayrov finds himself in the pit, in the jail. And he asked the Zera Mashkim, after he interpreted his dream, please, when you go up, and when Paro reestablishes you to your position, please make sure you mention him to me. Don't forget about me. Get me out of here. And for that, we know he got punished, because he wasn't supposed to do that. Look what it says over here. Pasuk Vayhi Miketz Shanatam Yamim. Our parasha begins with this pasuk. It was Miketz at the end of Shanatam Yamim. 2 years of days. And it was at the end of 2 years of days. That's the literal translation of the pasuk. Ita b'midrash Rabbah. He brings the midrash Rabbah that explains the pasuk. It says, Dal yedei she'amar le'Zera Mashkim ki im zichartani v'hizkartani. Because he said to the Zera Mashkim, the wine bearer, wherever you want to translate it, they have different translations, chamberlain of wine, whatever it is. I'm going to call him Zera Mashkim. The Zera Mashkim, he said to him in two different verses, the Pasukim are down, the Midrash doesn't bring the whole Pasuk, but he tells him twice, if you will only remember me and please remember me. Right? Yosef said to Zera Mashkim, if you will only remember me and please remember me. Two languages of remember me. And for that, two languages, those two extra words, he said to him, Nitosfu lo shetei shanim. 2 years were added to his jail sentence. Ad kan leshono, that's the language of the Midrash. That's why the Pasuk starts off saying it was in the end of 2 years of days. After 2 years, those 2 years were a punishment for Yosef for saying those two words of remember me to the Zera Mashkim. Hatam lamma shetei shanim davka. Zera Shimshon wants to explain to you why specifically 2 years. Why was 2 years added to Yosef's sentence specifically? Huh? 2 words. Okay, 2 words, fine. But there's more. There's much more. That's the surface. The surface level is 2 words, but there's so much depth he's going to open up for you right now. Look what he says. Yuvan la'anu de'ati. It can be explained based on my humble opinion, says Zera Shimshon. Based on that which is known, he's going to bring you some Kabbalah right now. The Ari HaKadosh. He brings you what the Ari HaKadosh writes in Sha'ar Ruach HaKodesh. It says over there like this. Ki hazechira ba'a mishtei shemot. It tells you the essence of remembering, zechira in Hebrew, is sourced in 2 names of Hashem. So just quick introduction. We know HaKadosh Baruch Hu is called by many different names throughout the Torah, right? There's Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's called the name Havaya. Havaya means being. Being, because past, present, and future, to be today, to be yesterday, and to be now, being, all of those words are within the name of Havaya, right? Yud Kei Vav and Kei. Yud and then Vav and then Hey. Those 3 letters make up the word Yihye, shall be, Haya, was, and Hove, which is present, is now. So all existence is in that word, pretty much. Yes, that's one of his names. Yes. What did I say 4? I didn't say 4. I said 3. Past, present, and future is all in that name, Havaya. We call it Havaya, but it's Yud Kei Vav Kei. Another name we know is the name of Adnut, of lordship, kingship. That's the name that we pronounce, right? When we say Barachot, Baruch Atah, right? That's spelled a different way. It's spelled Aleph, Daled, Nun, then Yud. There's other names, right? There's Shin, Daled, and then Yud. There's Aleph and Lamed. That's a name. There's Elokim, another name. All these names, what's the point? You tell me Hashem, they got bored one day, they said, okay, we're tired of calling you by one name all the time, we're going to give you some nicknames. Chas v'shalom. Every name explains a midah, an attribute, explains a way of how Hashem manages the world. That's the simple understanding, okay? So, from two of those names comes the concept of remembering. What two names? Havaya, which is the main name, and Ekyeh. Aleph, Hey, Yud, and Hey. This is the name that Hashem says to Moshe in Sefer Shemot when he reveals himself to him. Right? When Moshe asks them, when they ask, what is the God's name? What should I say? He told them this pasuk, Ekyeh Asher Ekyeh. Tell them, I shall be as I shall be. This is his name, one of his names. This is the highest name, by the way. Each name represents, like I said, one of the attributes. Those attributes are called many different names in English and Hebrew. Emanations, sfirot, powers, whatever you want to call them. They are how Hashem runs the world. How they interact, what they represent, what power they hold. That's how reality takes form. So the highest name in this structure is the name of Ekyeh, I shall be. That's in what we call the Keter, the crown area, the toppest, highest part by the head. That's called Keter. That's the name of Ekyeh. The middle one is Tiferet. That's the name of Havaya. Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's right in the middle. It connects to everything. Those two names in their source is the concept of remembering. Says. How? Bemilui, you have to do something called milui. Milui means filling up. Milui is one of the ways you could do gematria. Okay, there's a lot of different systems of gematria, and applying different systems reveals different secrets and depths of the words. One of those systems is called milui, filling up. What does that mean? That means you take every letter of a word and you spell out every letter. I'll give you an example, okay? Let's say I want to say the word, check if it's visible. The word bite, just a random word, means house. This is how you spell it. Bite. But now I want to do a milui. I want to open up every letter. So I spell the letter bet. Bet, Yud and Taf. Bet is spelled the same way, by the way. Bet, Yud and Taf. Right? That's this one. Yud, how do you spell Yud? Yud, Vav, Dalet. Yud. Tav, how do you spell Tav? Tav, Yud, Vav usually is the most common spelling. Tav, it's not Taf, it's Tav, Tau. If you ask a Yemenite, he'll tell you Tau. That's what it is. So that's an example of Milui. We can do the same thing, and Mekubalim do the same thing all the time with Hashem's names as well. And there's many secrets in there. So he wants to do that with two of Hashem's names. The name of Havaya and the name of Aleph Dalet, Ekyeh, Aleph Hey Vav and Hey. Yud and Hey, Aleph Hey Yud and Hey. So those words I can't write over here because those are words you're not allowed to erase and write. The names of Hashem you're not allowed to write down if you're going to erase it, right? So we're just going to write out the Milui straight out. That you're allowed to do. So let's do it. A lot of math over here. Let's do it. The Milui of Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey. Now I have to tell you, there's a few different ways to do the Milui. Because there's some letters that you could spell them different ways. For example, the letter Vav can be spelled Vav Vav, or it can be spelled Vav Yud Vav, or it can be spelled Vav Aleph Vav. And each one of those spellings are valid. Each one of them has a certain place in Kabbalah. Same thing with the letter Hey. It can be spelled Hey Aleph. It can be spelled Hey Yud. Hey Yud, right? So what we call one of the ways to spell out Havaya, Hashem's name, is what's called Bemilu Yudin, with the Milui of only using the Yuds. That's the highest name. That comes out to 72 total. The Gematria comes out to 72, as I'll show you right now. Right here. So Yud, the first letter, is always spelled the same way. Yud, Vav, and Dalet. First letter. Second letter, Hey, but we're spelling Hay's with Yud. So it's going to be Hey Yud. Vav, we're spelling it with the Yud, remember? So it's Vav, Yud, Vav, Vav. And then again, Hey Yud. Yud, then Hey, then Vav, then Hey. The gematria of this combination, if you add up every letter, right? I'm not going to do it now, but take my word for it. I'll just give you an example. This is Yud is 10, Vav is 6, Daled is 4, Hey is 5, 10, 6, 10, 6, 5, 10. It comes out to, who's quick in math? Close, my friend. 72. Very common number in Torah. Very important number. Okay. Now, if you take the next name, which is Ekie, the highest name that I was talking about, and you also do Milui with Yud, again, on those letters, what would it look like? How do you spell Aleph? Aleph, Lamed, Pei Sofit. That's a Chaf, I'm sorry. Pei Sofit, like that. Aleph. Then Hey, we're doing with Yud. So, Hey, then Yud, always the same. This is a bad marker. Then Hey. Is that visible? Can you see that? I'll use a different one, but that's been Milui Yud. Because using the Yuds to spell the Heys. What's the gematria over here?
That's here.
Huh?
That's here. The name here.
Yes. We're spelling out that name. Yes. What's the gematria of this? Any quick numbers? I'll do it for you. No, it's not 72. This is different because Aleph is 1, Lamed is 30, Fei is 80. Right? Fei is 80, so it pushes it up. What's the number going to be? 161. Welcome to math class. 161. When you add both of these two numbers together, says the Arya Kadosh, 72 plus 161 is? Come on, guys. Nice. 233. What do we say is sourced in these two names? What did I tell you? Remembering. Zachor, remember. Gematria, 233. See that? You don't believe me? 7, 20, 6, 200. Resh is 200. Work backwards. 200 plus 6, 206. Plus 20, 226. Plus 7, 233. Milui Yud of Ekie and Havaya. Zachor. Remembering comes from that. What does that mean? Let's build on that.
How about the second word? What's the second word?
What second word? This?
No, like you use two words, right? Because they added.
But the shorish is, this is the shorish. Zachor, remember. He told them, the pasuk says like this. It was stood in pasukim. Ki'im zechartani v'hizkartani. The shorish is zachor. Okay? Continuing over here. Shehem begimatria zachor v'hashikha. So now we know where remembering comes from. Where does forgetting come from? V'hashikha ba'a me'ahoraim shel shtei miluyim elu. Shikha, forgetting, comes from a method called achoraim of these two miluis, of these two names. Again, it's these two names, but it's a different method called achoraim. Achoraim literally means backwards or behind. But what it means, I'll explain to you like this. Achoraim, the way you calculate this method of gematria is you build up. You add as you go along. Okay? So let's just put these numbers in just to understand. Aleph is 1, Lamed is 30, Pei is 80, Hey is 5, 10. This is 10, 6, 4, 10, 5. Okay? So Achoraim means I take this number. 4 plus 6 plus 10, what is that? 20. Okay? And then I take this number plus this number and I add it to 20. So it's going to be 20 plus 15, that's 35. And I add it to 20? What do I have? Right, 55. Right. Well, hold on. 20 plus 15, 35 plus 20, 55. Right. Then the next step is I take 55 and I add it to this plus this plus this. I keep adding 1. You understand? It's like a factorial almost in math. So then I have 55. So then this is going to be 20 plus 15 plus 22 plus 55. whatever that number is going to be, I'd add that number to this 1, 2, 3, and 4. All these together. Keep building one, like a building blocks, and you keep adding. Okay. That's called Achoraim. When you do that for both of these names, and I did the math. Maybe do it at home. It takes a while. It's in the note here. I did the math. But when you do that, the number, not just for this name, do it for this name as well. For Ekyeh. Right? So again, it's going to be 80 plus 30 plus 1. That's 111. And then 111 plus, take 111. Then you do 111 plus the 15. That's going to be 126. You add that to 111. And then you take that and you add it to the next letter that you add in. It's factorial, so you keep adding it in. Right? So again, first you add just this, then these two, then these three, then these four all together. Do that for both of these names. You're going to come out to the following number, 728. You know what gematria is 728? What word? Tishkach. You shall forget. Tishkach. You shall forget. Opposite of Zachor. Interesting. Let's read further. When you be very precise, says Zera Shimshon. תמצא שבשתי שנים יש תשל ימים. How many days are there in 2 years? Good. What's 365 times 2? 730 days in 2 years.
No, let's say for example
2 years. If you go by the lunar calendar, yes, but if you go by we also use the solar calendar. We use both. The Jewish calendar, calendar we use is a combination of both, because that's why we have the leap years that push everything back for that Pesach to always be in the spring. So we do use the solar calendar. So 365 days in one solar year times 2 is 730 days. Okay. Next. 365 days in a solar year, he says. Ends up being that this 730 is almost exactly 728. The only difference is the two, and you can do something called a kolel. Kolel is another method in gematria where you take the words that you used in your gematria and you add the number of words to your total. So here the number of words were really two words, the two names of Hashem, Havaya and Ekyeh. So you take those two, you add it to 728 of Tishkach, and you get 730. And that's why he says, Sar Mashkim forgot for 2 years to mention Yosef to Paro. You read one pasuk in the Torah, 2 pasukim, you think, okay, very nice. But you don't understand how much depth is there. You hear?
How did you come up with this again? Just repeat the last.
Which one? 730?
Yeah, how do you with those two names?
So 728 is gematria of Tishkach. It's also the gematria of the Achoraim, the building up method of these two names. So you get 728. You can do something called hakolel, which means the inclusion, the total. Which means you can take the number of words you use in your calculation and add it to your total. So here the main words were, this is just a breakdown, but the main words were the two names. Havaya and Ekyeh. Everything came from those two names. So that's 2. You add 2 to 728, you get exactly 730, which is the exactly same amount of days there are in 2 years. Got it now? Okay. והם בגימטריה תשכח עם שני ימים יתרים, דהיינו הכולל של שתי שמות אלו, ולכן יוסף שתלה הזכירה בשר המשקים, ולא תלה בקדוש ברוך הוא, ניתן לו השכחה, דהיינו כל כך ימים כמו שעולים שתי שמות אלו. That's why since Yosef put his trust into a flesh and blood human being, the Zera Shimshon, instead of putting his trust into Hashem, he asked him twice, please remember me, please remember me. That's why he got punished that for 2 years, for 730 days, same gematria as Tishkach with the kolel. That was Yosef's punishment. Okay. That's why the pasuk says Vahi Miketz. It was at the end. The Miketz im gimel otuyot hu begematria zachor. Because if you take the word Miketz, okay, what can I erase here? What can I erase here? I'm going to erase the bottom for now. You remember this part. If you take the word Miketz, that's the name of the parasha. It means from the end. Ketz means the end. Miketz. Plus 3. Why plus 3? Because of the rule that I told you, hakolel. You can take the number of letters in the word or the number of words in the phrase and add it to your total of your gematria. It says over here. This comes out to 233 as well. And what's 233? We already learned. Zachor. You shall remember. All connected to the same idea. Only after that he remembered Yosef. Miketz. Only after Miketz he remembered Yosef. כלומר, שאם לא היה תולה ביטחונו בשר המשקים, if Yosef never left his trust in the שר המשקים, היה הקדוש ברוך הוא זוכר ממנו. Hashem himself would have remembered him and saved him. כמו שרומז Miketz, like the word Miketz hints at. ולפי שתלה ביטחונו בבשר בדם, נתוספו לו 2 ימים. And since he trusted a human being, he got 2 years added, like we said. בדייק כתוב לומר, ימים שלפי הפשט, שנתיים סגי. ומהו ימים? לרמוז לנו, למה שנתיים דווקא לפי שחשבון הימים הם כנגד החטא שחטא יוסף. This explains another diuk in the pasuk. The pasuk says, ויהי מקץ שנתיים ימים. And it was at the end of 2 years, 2 years of days. Of 2 years of days. That sounds redundant. You don't need of days. The word yamim is not necessary. Just say, ויהי מקץ שנתיים. And it was at the end of 2 years. Period. What's 2 years of days? To hint to you, dafka the number of days. Count the number of days. How many days is it? 730. What does 730 hint at? Zachor and Tishkach. 730 over here. Tishkach. See? It's all connected. Okay, so he brings another rabbi who says that when I told him this Kiddush, he was amazed. He loved it. Even the Zohar, he brings the Zohar HaKadosh to support what he's saying. Mesayenu. The Kamar Zohar says, Atar deit be nashiu kam kameh, which means a place where forgetfulness is present has come in front of us. Kevan she'amar v'lo zachar Sara Mashkim, since the pasuk says already that Sara Mashkim didn't remember Yosef, vayishkacheu. Why does the pasuk also have to say it? He forgot him. The last pasuk of last week's parasha. There's also a seeming redundancy that all the Mefarshim jump on. It says Velo Zachar Sara Meshkim et Yosef Vayishkacheu. And Sara Meshkim didn't remember him and he forgot him. Hold on. If he didn't remember him, that means he forgot him. If he forgot him, that means he didn't remember him. Why you have to tell me both terms? One term is enough. Tell me either he didn't remember him or tell me he forgot him. Why tell me he didn't remember him and he forgot him? Says the Zohar Kadosh. Rather here, forgot him means Atar di'it bes shechra. He came to a place where there's forgetfulness. Ad kan l'shono. Hashem yir'enu mitarato niflaot, which means the Zera Shimshon is trying to say that this Zohar Kadosh is support for him. That he came to a place. It's hard to understand this part, honestly, but it seems like he's saying that the place or the place and time, space and time are connected. We know that, right? Space and time. You can't have time without space or space without time. Which means the time of 2 years is what caused him to forget, as we said before. Further you can say שהגם ששתי שנים הם תשע ימים. 2 years is 730 days. If you're coming in the middle, it's a lot of information, but I'll summarize a little later. 2 years is 730 days. מקום מקום השכחה של שר המשקים שמא לא הייתה אלא כמניין תשכח. Says nevertheless, you can even say the same chidush as says Zera Shimshon without using the kolel of the two. Before you have to use the kolel of the two names, and add it to 728 to equal to 730 days of the year. But he says you don't need that. You can leave the two out and stick with 728, and it still works. Why? Because maybe the total number of days that Sara Mashkim actually only forgot Yosef was a total of 728 days. Why? שהרי לא היה לו להזכירו אלא כשיצא הוא מבית האסורים והוא לא יצא אלא ביום השלישי. Zera Mashkim only came out of jail on the third day from when his dream was interpreted by Yosef. On the third day. That doesn't mean 3 complete 24-hour cycles passed. It was on the third day, which means 2 days passed. 2 full days passed from the time it was interpreted. And in the middle of the third day, he was saved out. So from that day on, it's 728. Till the next year when Paro had his dream and Yosef was taken out to interpret Paro's dream. So exactly 728, Tishkach, he forgot him. Zera Mashkim forgot Yosef as a punishment. Like I said, ולסוף שנתיים ימים שאמר יוסף כי אם זכרתני בזכרתני אז חלום פרעה ואין החינמי, exactly what I said, שהיו 2 שנים של למות. So it ends up being exactly 2 years שתוספו ליוסף, that was added to Yosef's sentence, ביום שאמר כי אם אומנם שכחתו של זרה משקים לא הייתה אלא כמניין תשכח. אחר זה מצאנו, okay, he says I saw that another source similar to this. And the last piece he says over here, further you can say, when the pasuk says it was 2 years of days, because if you want to take the lunar year is a 12-month year, meaning 12 lunar cycles. That's 1 lunar year. And therefore it's not a complete solar year of 365 days. שעדיין חסר מהם 11, it's 11-day difference. יום שיתרים שנות החמה ומשום הכי כאמר שנתיים ימים. And that's why the pasuk says שנתיים ימים, 2 years of days, because they want you, the extra term days is hinting at you that you should think of solar years here and not lunar years. If you think solar years, it's exactly 728. Lunar years, there's 11-day difference. It's only 355 days, 4.5, something like that. So it wouldn't work out the same. That's why the word yamim is hinting, the extra word yamim, pasuk is hinting at you, we're talking about solar years, the extra, the more, the bigger years, to reach the 728 and not the lunar years. Beseder. That's the whole Zera Shimshon. It's a short piece, but very interesting. We still have a lot of time. I would like to tell you, expand this Zera Shimshon a little bit, tell you a very interesting chidush. A lot of us, Baruch Hashem, take time out of our week to learn Torah, to learn and study. And that's very commendable, it's excellent, we should be doing that. But a lot of us also have the common complaint, Rabbi, I can't remember what I'm learning. Why am I forgetting what I'm learning? It comes in one year and out the other. What I learned last week, I can't even tell you over. And this is a problem, I'll tell you why it's a problem. Because there's a Rashi, which we actually learned earlier a few weeks ago in Zera Shimshon. It's brought down Masechet Berachot Daf Vav Amud Bet. The Rashi there is mashma very clearly. The Gemara says over there that the reward that a person gets for coming to learn Shiur Torah is the running. What do you mean the running? Meaning the fact that this person ran to shul, he exerted extra effort to run instead of walk, to hear the rabbi speak. That's what he gets reward for. All the Mefarshim jump and say, hold on a second, what about the actual learning? He came to hear the Torah. He came to hear from the rabbi the chidushim, the halachot, whatever he's learning. Rashi says that Gemara is talking about regular people, the most people who, when they go to hear shiur, they don't remember what they learned from the rabbi. And since they don't remember it, Rashi is mashma that he's saying he's implying that since you don't remember it, you basically don't get credit for it. And therefore the only credit you get is the effort that you expended on going there. That Rashi is very difficult. There's many other Mifashim. The Zera Shimshon, if you remember, explained no, not necessarily. That the Gemara only means the reward of running is what the reward you get for this world, in this world. But the reward of learning, you for sure is saved for you in Olam Haba. That's as Zera Shimshon explained it. I think it's a very good explanation. Nevertheless, we have to be choshesh Rashi's opinion. Rashi's a huge, Rashi's Enkamo. Rashi's the most prolific commentator in all of Torah and Shas and Gemara and Chumash. Unbelievable. Without Rashi, where would we be? We would be blind without Rashi. So we should be choshesh's opinion. We should be concerned with the words that he wrote there. And what that means is, whenever we learn, we have to try to do our best to remember it. You have to be able to say it over to somebody else. Now, how do you do that is the question. How do you do that? I'll give you a simple solution today. It's probably something you already knew, but I'm going to show you how that solution is supported by what we learned here. And it's very simple. You have to do chazara. Chazara means review. You have to review. You have to go over what you learned at least once, twice, 3 times. The more the better. Everyone has their sweet spot. For some people, when they look it over 3 or 4 times, they know it cold. Some people need 10 times. Some people need twice. Some people have photographic memory once. God, amazing people. Whatever works, whatever you need, you should repeat it. And you'll see every time you repeat it, it gets even more sweeter and more deeper. And you notice details that you didn't notice before. And those are the things that excite you. Those are the things that help you remember. Repetition. Study. Review. But how? We said over here, as a short review, the concept of remembering, zachor, that's the word zachor, and the concept of forgetting, which is the opposite of that, tishkach, you shall forget, shechicha. They are both hinted in the 2 names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Havaya and Ekyeh. Okay? And these names can be broken down in this way, spelled out with a milui. And the gematriot can be calculated as we said before, the 2 different ways. You can calculate them straight, which is zachor, to remember, and you can calculate them achoraim, the building up way, which is, as we said before, and that's the gematria of tishkach. The name Yud Kei Vav Kei, by the way, is situated in the supernal structure in the body. The body means the physical world. It's by the hands, is where things are performed, where physical things are revealed and take form. The name of Ekyeh is located in the top, in the brain, in the head, even beyond the brain, where you put your tefillin. That's where it is. And that's where the highest level of the neshama is. Highest level of the soul is in that space. That's where your memory is. That's where your higher cognitive thoughts are. Right? Even the brain is broken up into different structures, different parts, biologically and Kabbalistically. And the front part, the frontal lobe as they call it, is the part where higher cognitive function takes place. What does that mean? That's the place where you think. That's the place where you calculate. That's the place where you have emotions, where you think of deep physical. That's where you can connect to God through that frontal lobe of yours. It's right here. That's the place where you put your tefillin. Right over here, in the front. The side parts of the brain have other functions, right? It's close to the ear. Over here, your auditory apparatus is here. Other emotions, other hormone regulations are in the temporal lobes, parietal lobes. The occipital lobe in the back is where you see. The sense of sight, vision is built up in the occipital lobe, right? The eyes connect back over there. But the higher function, the godly ability to think and calculate and philosophize is from there, from the front. That's where Ekyeh is. In the supernal structure, Ekyeh's structure is located over there. And so the point of remembering was remembering. When you try to remember, you want to take what you do in the physical, what you see and sense and feel and read, and bring it up to that spot. Connect it up to the part of Ekyeh. So from Havaya to Ekyeh, Havaya is in the middle, where the heart is. You want to bring from the heart, from the physical world, up to that spot. That's remembering. When it's there, it's there. Right? Our brains design an amazing way. Now we have all these books because we need them. But previous generations, they didn't need all this. They didn't need calculators. I remember when I was in school even, we didn't have calculators in early school up to like about 5th, 6th, 7th grade. Then when you start doing calculus and pre-calculus, you get a calculator. But before that, we used to do calculations like this. Forget about the previous generation. I think now even in China now, by the way, they have a system like that. That's why they make your brain work stronger and harder. That's why they can do more. You don't understand what the brain is. It's the most unbelievable tool. The most unbelievable thing God created on this planet is the human brain. People still don't know how to explain it. Scientists still going nuts trying to figure out how it works, why it works. It's beyond the scope of our imagination what the brain is. It's a recording system. Everything you see and sense, it's recorded in your brain. It's there. Everything you've ever done or seen, it's there. The question is you have to access it. You have to bring up from the physical, from the Havaya up to the Ekyeh, up to the highest part of the cognitive thinking, where the neshama is, and it stays there forever. Now the question is, how do you do that? Like we said, review. The more you do it, the more it stays. How do we know that? Zachor is when you add them together. When you bring up the Havaya up to the Ekyeh, you get 233. 72, 161, 233. That's Zachor, remember. Shechicha is when you add them up. Which means to get 728 for Shechicha, you take this one. Then you add it with this one plus this one. Then you add it with this one plus this one plus this one. Then you add it plus that, and that. Then you take this one. You add this plus this, and then this plus this, and this, and then you add it all together, and you add that to that. What do you see there in that pattern? You're constantly going back one to review, and then you're moving forward the next step. So when you're learning a book, you have a shiur once a week, whatever it is, you learn this page, next week when you open up the page, don't start on the next new page right away. Go back a page quickly, just run through it, or just parts of it, peruse it. You don't have to do the whole thing in depth again because you realize you already did it once. Once you read it again, okay, the neurons are going to fire in your brain. Okay, I remember that last week, that connected to this. Boom, 1, 2, 3. Your brain works much faster than you think. Right? I'm trying to say so much right now, my brain is already all the way down the next block already. I have to go back and slow it down to explain to you what I'm trying to say. That's the same thing. Whenever you're studying, go back a page a little bit, then go forward one. Next time again, go back a page, then go forward one. Then on your free time, when you're on Shabbat, you have an hour here or there. Do everything you did that week. That week, do 1 page, 2 page. But again, it doesn't mean the same way you did it that same week that you have to go in depth and waste all that and waste as much time. Not necessarily. It's going to be much quicker and much faster. I'm telling you, some Gemarot, very difficult Gemarot, right? Huge Rashis, Tosfot, hard to understand. The first time you do it, the first time is always the hardest. You have no idea what's going on. You're trying to break your head in the words. What are the connections? What are the steps in logic? What is the Chilukim distinguished? What is Rashi's opinion? What's Tosfot's opinion? The next time you do it, it's the same amount, but you go through it twice as fast because you already know what to expect, more or less. You get the overall picture, right? You've already been through the forest once, right? That's why a good method I like to do is look at the forest first, which means if you get a line you're stuck on, go to the next line. And the next line and the next line, you'll get a better picture of the overall story, and then you can go back from the beginning and start again, and you'll see that that spot that you were stuck on, now that you've seen the whole picture, that spot, the difficult spot, becomes more clear. Start with the forest and then look at the individual trees. That's the method I like. But that's the point we see here. That's where Shechicha is, because if you don't do it that way, if you don't go back one before you go forward, you get to Shechicha, you get 728. You forget. You forget. And it doesn't stay. You didn't successfully transfer from the Havaya, the physical world, the stimulus, up to Ekyeh, the world of thought and memory. You understand? That's one chidush. And another thing I'll tell you that connects to this. The end of last week's parasha said, "V'lo zachar Zera Shimshon et Yosef v'yishkacheu." And the Zera Shimshon didn't remember Yosef and he forgot him. The question is, what's the double language? Tell me either he didn't remember him, or tell me he forgot him. Why are you telling me both? Zachor means remember. It also means to mention, to say, to speak. Right? Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadasho, says the fourth commandment. You shall remember the day of Shabbat to sanctify it. Chachamim learn, what does it mean? How do you remember it? Zechira, same word. You mention it. You say something about it. What do you say? What mitzvah is that? The recitation of Kiddush on Friday night. That's Zechira. That's mentioning. By mentioning, that's how you remember. It's the same word in Hebrew. Zachor tizkor. Mention, remember. Same exact word. Therefore, if you want to remember something, what do you have to do? You have to verbalize it. You can't read Torah like a newspaper. Or like your 1,000 Avdalot, your Instagram feed, or whatever it is. You can just look. You have to say. The poskim will bring this down. They codify it in law. The Mishnah Berurah mentions it. That when you learn Torah, be sure to verbalize. Say the words. When you say the words, those faculties get activated and your memory muscles, so to speak, get activated. Why? It's connected to another concept of the creation of the world, and that is speech is creation. expression is creation. How did Hashem create the world? 10 ma'amarot, 10 sayings. He said things, right? V'yomer Elohim yi or v'hi or. Hashem said, let there be light, and there was light. By the way, quick side chidush. Since we're in Chanukah, how does the Torah start? Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. V'haaretz heta tohu v'vohu v'ruach Elohim merechefet al pnei hamayim. V'yomer Elohim yi or v'hi or. Hashem said, let there be light, and there was light. That last word, or, is the 25th word from the beginning of the Torah that I just recited for you. And that's why, that's one of the hints of Chanukah in the Torah. Because Chanukah starts, of course, on the 25th day of Kislev as well. The light of Chanukah, Yehi Or, let there be light. So, that was just a side point. The point I wanted to say here is, how do you remember your Torah? You review, you go back, and then you go forward. You mention, you speak it out. You have to speak with somebody. If you're learning by yourself, still make sure you speak it out. And if people think you're crazy, don't worry about them. They're crazy. Argue with yourself if you have no one else to argue with. That's where the Torah comes out. That's where the Torah blossoms and comes forth. And that's where your memory becomes more powerful. And you'll be surprised that you're remembering things you never thought you would be able to remember. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.